Hey, everybody. I'm Jeff Williams with Armor Insurance Agency located right here in Miles City, Montana. And today we are talking about motorcycle insurance. Did you know that in the state of Montana, unlike with car insurance, motorcycle insurance is not mandated to maintain a continuous liability policy? And there are 6,820 motorcycle registrations per 100,000 residents. That is the highest per capita motorcycle registration in any state. While it might seem like a boon to not have to purchase insurance for your motorcycle, it's actually leaving the residents of Montana financially vulnerable. So while it's not required, everyone out there that is driving on a Montana road, they really still need protection against an unexpected event. So if you're ready to learn about this topic, let's get started. So let's get started with what the actual laws are. There are three laws that matter. In the state of Montana, and I have to read this, Montana Code Annotated 61-101, Part 45A, defines a motorcycle as a motor vehicle that has a seat or saddle for the use of the operator and that is designed to travel on not more than three wheels in contact with the ground. So a motorcycle may carry one or more attachments and a seat for the conveyance of a passenger. Montana Code 61-101-45B, which is in the very next part, states that a motorcycle designed for use on highways is a motor vehicle unless otherwise prescribed. But it's this next one that really matters. Montana Code Annotated 61-6303, Part 5, that explicitly exempts motorcycles from the mandatory liability insurance requirements for motor vehicles while driving on Montana roads. Let's talk a little bit about why it makes sense to carry a motorcycle insurance policy. Number one, financial protection. Montana is an at-fault state. So if you are responsible for an accident, then you would be held responsible for medical expenses, property damage, and if there's legal costs involved, well, that too. And if you have insurance, it's going to help out with that. If you don't have insurance, well, that's all going to come out of your pocket. Number two is the comprehensive coverage that you can get. You can get coverage that's going to help protect your bike against theft, vandalism, or other than collision damage type things like, hail. We get a little bit of that around here. Now, you can also get underinsured or uninsured motorist, and by law, an agent would need to offer that to you at the time that you're discussing it. That is good coverage because if an accident is someone else's fault and they're underinsured or uninsured, well, then you get stuck with the cost. And this type of coverage kicks in to help out. Some of the coverages will have 24/7 roadside assistance. And if your bike breaks down in the middle of nowhere, Montana, well, you're going to be glad that you have that coverage. And ultimately, it's peace of mind. It's knowing that you have the security and safety of being covered. There are three simple ways to look at the coverage options that are available to you: liability coverage, full coverage, and add-on coverage. And we're going to talk about each one of those. So let's start with liability coverage. And remember, liability coverage is the type of coverage that pays the other guy. And Montana is an at-fault state. So if you're at fault for an accident, then you are going to be liable for the damages and the injuries that result from that accident. In the event of a motorcycle accident, the at-fault party's insurance company is responsible for paying for those damages and injuries that the other party sustained. And victims have the right to pursue compensation from the at-fault driver, either through their insurance company or through legal action. And if you don't have insurance, then legal action will be the way. So if we take a little closer look at liability insurance, we'll understand that it is covering bodily injury and property damage. And when we talk about bodily injury, we're talking really about the medical expenses that the injured person is going to have sustained. And so if there was an ambulance involved, an ER visit, a surgery, a hospital stay, it's going to help pay for that. It will also help pay for compensation if that injured individual loses wages. It will also pay the legal fees that are associated with one of these claims. And in a worst case scenario, it's going to help pay for funeral expenses. As far as the property damage is concerned, it's going to really help to repair another person's vehicle, damages to any structures like fences or buildings or mailbox or anything else that may have been destroyed, and any kind of related costs like towing fees or rental fees. If you choose to purchase liability insurance for your motorcycle, then you must meet the minimum requirements for motor vehicles by the state of Montana. And Montana Code Annotated 616103 defines those minimums as $25,000 for bodily injury or death for any one person in any one accident, $50,000 for two or more persons for bodily injury or death in any one accident, and $20,000 for property damage in any one accident. Now, more is going to be recommended by just about any agent. And the reason for that is $25,000 does not go very far in the medical world anymore. In addition, Montana law requires agents to recommend or offer underinsured or uninsured coverage as well. You can reject that, but in general, well, not in general, by law, agents like myself must recommend that at the time that you purchase liability insurance. And it will help to protect you in the event that an accident is caused by a driver who lacks sufficient insurance to pay for the damages. So let's move on to full coverage. Full coverage means one or both of the following. You added a collision coverage and or a comprehensive coverage. Both of these coverages pay for damage to your motorcycle. Now, if we're talking about collision coverage, it's going to cover damage from accidents or vehicles or objects or something that you hit. And it's going to apply regardless of fault. It doesn't matter who was responsible. It is going to apply. And it's going to help pay for the repairs or replacement of your motorcycle. The comprehensive coverage is really protecting against basically everything else. Against theft, vandalism, weather damage from things like hail. It's going to cover incidents that don't involve collisions. And basically, if it's not excluded, and all policies will have exclusions. Well, if it's not excluded, then it's covered. Let's talk a little bit about add-on coverages. So add-on coverages, there's a whole host of them for motorcycle insurance. And that includes things like medical payment coverage. And medical payment coverage is regardless of fault, it's going to help pay medical expenses that result from a motorcycle accident. You can get enhanced injury protection, which is going to pay a portion of lost wages, and it may offer a death benefit. There is safety riding apparel coverage, which is going to cover things like your helmet, your goggles, your gloves, your jacket, your leathers, your boots, and you can get coverage up to about $3,000. There's a contents coverage. Contents coverage is for things like your hunting gear, your camping gear, your touring gear, or any similar gear that gets damaged or destroyed or stolen while being transported on your motorcycle as a result of a covered loss. There's also accessory coverage. So if you've customized your bike, well, that costs money, and this is the coverage for that. There are disappearing deductibles, and if you have a disappearing deductible, it means that you go a certain period of time without having a claim, then it decreases your deductible by a certain percentage, and when you do that successively, then it will decrease to the point where you may not have a deductible at all. There is a trip interruption coverage, and this is going to pay for things like meals, lodging, and alternative transportation if you experience a mechanical breakdown and you're more than 100 miles away from your home. There is also a motorcycle rental coverage. The motorcycle rental coverage basically takes your insurance policy and applies it to any rented motorcycle. There is a transport trailer coverage, and that is just as it sounds. It covers the trailer that you transport your bike on. And some policies will also offer a 24/7 roadside assistance. So this was just to name a few of the coverages that are available. There's a whole host of add-on coverages that can be applied. So what kind of bikes can be covered under a motorcycle policy? Well, generally, there's a large variety of bikes that are covered. And that can include things like a cruiser, touring bikes, limited production cruisers, dirt bikes, sport bikes, mopeds, scooters, e-bikes, and segways. There are some special considerations for motorcycle insurance coverage. Certain motorcycles they require special consideration. And those motorcycles are so unique or specialized that they may only qualify for liability coverage. And remember, liability coverage is what pays the other guy. Examples include any motorcycles that really have a state-assigned VIN, or motorcycles that are specially constructed, we'll put it that way, or assembled motorcycles. So that could include a non-factory built from a kit, or a motorcycle that has an aftermarket frame. Now, there are also motorcycles, mopeds, and scooters that are not listed in the Kelley Blue Book or the NADA appraisal guide. And if they're not listed, then they may only qualify for liability insurance. There are also certain motorcycles that may qualify for collision or comprehensive coverage, but they often are going to require that some sort of special review and lower limits apply. And this is going to be motorcycles like limited production models and motorcycles that are 25 years old or older. If you choose to purchase a motorcycle insurance policy, it's going to be very important that you understand how the company is going to value your bike in the event of a loss. They call this the loss settlement. And there are three options that companies use, and it's important to understand how and when they use them. The three coverage options are replacement cost, actual cash value, and agreed value. The replacement cost is the amount that it's going to take to replace a damaged or stolen motorcycle with a new one of similar make and model without considering depreciation. And that's the important part of that one. Actual cash value is that it reflects the current market value of the vehicle at the time of the loss. So it does take into account depreciation. And then there is agreed value. Agreed value is a fixed amount that you and the insurance company agree to at the start of the policy. So let's talk about when and how the insurance carriers will apply the replacement cost. Now, depending on the insurance company, the replacement cost is generally going to provide policyholders with a payout that's equal to the manufacturer's suggested retail price, or MSRP. And that's going to be of the current model year motorcycle of the same make and model in the event of a loss. But there are restrictions that apply, and the restrictions that apply are typically going to be with regard to the availability and to renewal. Now, regarding availability, it's motorcycles that are new or used and not more than one model year old at the time of purchase. And as far as renewals go, it's only renewed if the motorcycle's model year is no more than 2 years older than the calendar year of the renewal's effective date. Effectively, what that means is that it's good for about 2 years. After that, it switches over to actual cash value, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So when and how do insurance companies apply the actual cash value? Well, actual cash value is the most common method that is used by insurance companies to settle motorcycle claims. The payout is based on a motorcycle's fair market value at the time of loss. Now, this does account for depreciation. And for motorcycles that have a resale value that's listed in a resource like the NADA Appraisal Guide or the Kelly Blue Book, actual cash value does provide a realistic valuation. Now, under an actual cash value settlement, the insurer's liability is going to be limited to the lowest, and important that you hear, it's the lowest of one of three amounts. And those three amounts are as follows: the actual cash value of the motorcycle at the time of loss. 2, the cost required to replace the stolen or damaged property. Or 3, the cost necessary to repair the motorcycle to its pre-loss condition. Now, while the actual cash valuation is practical and widely applied, it more often than not is going to result in payouts that are lower when compared with the other two options. And this is because it does account for depreciation. So let's talk about the agreed value. The agreed value is used in specific circumstances, and this method is designed for motorcycles that lack a resale value published in standard appraisal guides like the NADA Appraisal Guide, the Kelly Blue Book, or if your motorcycle is 25 years old or older. Now, it does allow for the policyholder and the insurer to agree on a fixed amount for the motorcycle at the start of the policy. And this ensures that the payout in the event of a total loss is based on a predetermined amount. Now, there are some important components to understand, and that is, in a policy that has an agreed upon value, it's very likely that the insurer is going to require an inspection. And they may require this inspection to verify the motorcycle's condition and value. And it's often going to include doing things like, well, submitting photos, titles, and appraisals. There are typically coverage limits that are going to apply, and the maximum that many of them will sort of cap it at is about $50,000. Now, the payout, and this is going to be important too, the payout for a physical damage loss is going to be limited to the lower of one of three possibilities. And those are the agreed upon value, that's number one. Number 2 is the market value at the time of application. And 3, the cost to repair or replace the motorcycle. Let's take a moment and clarify the inspection requirements. Given the specialized nature of many of the motorcycles, the insurance companies may require an underwriting inspection to accurately assess the motorcycle's value and condition before finalizing a coverage. Now, when an inspection is required, it's typically arranged by the insurance company, and that's typically within 21 days of the policy's inception. Now, for some motorcycles, the insurers may actually say, well, why don't we just have the agent maintain some documentation for us? And typically that's going to be photos of both sides of the motorcycle and copies of the title. Well, folks, that's the whole ride. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed putting it together for you, and if you're considering purchasing motorcycle insurance, well, just give us a call here at Armor Insurance Agency, located in Miles City, Montana, but we can handle anything in the state. Well, that's it. I got nothing else for today. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Bye now.